All right, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for some more tuning. Going to take it out and see what it does. Looking at the trims and make sure my MAF and VE are in. But I got some more goodies pouring in. Got some BTR V2 trunnion update that's going to be coming soon. I got the steering box brace from is it Race Tech, I think. Some other goodies. Gonna do the AC compressor soon. Just want to get this tuning out of the way, and then I'll start digging into this stuff and let it cool off a little more too. It's only noon here in Florida, and it's already 80 something degrees. But so let's get this last tune plugged in. So we've got mass airflow recal. VE is done theoretically, and we're going to run through a double check again. This is where I caught my issue last time. But we've got closed loop is re-enabled. It comes back in from 186 up to 131, depending on engine temp. Long-term trims are back on. Short-term fuel trims and open loop are re-enabled. Power enrichment is set. I modded this down so it comes in. If I'm at higher RPM, it takes less throttle to go into power enrichment, as long as I'm over 75 kPa. That should be fine. Power enrichment ratio is still 1.15. That should get me down to 12.5 under power enrichment, which is where I want to be. Deceleration fuel cutoff is turned on. It's re-enabled. So we're going to ignore decel leans because it's going to show way lean during decel, which is fine. That's what I expect. The deceleration fuel cutoff just about turns the fuel off on decel or hard deceleration. So what else? Met's on. Power enrichment's on. COT is still disabled. I have no cats. Lean cruise mode is still turned off. I'm not using that. And we're good to go. So let's drop this into the ECM. Let me switch hands so I can turn the key on. There it goes, initializing, erasing, and then writing. It takes like 22 seconds to write the full tune in, and then I'll do a couple second cleanup, and we're good to go. What is this music on the radio? This is why I never listen to the radio. Good Lord. Doing a clean. And write's complete. We're good. You can hear the ECM reboot, fuel pump cycles again, so the ECM is ready to go. I'm going to start it up, let it warm up, and well, of course, while I'm doing this, I'm going to be tracking idle air by temperature, and I'll also be logging. I have it logged. Short-term idle adapts, long-term, short-term idle trim, long-term idle trim for air addict to see whether the base running airflow is set correctly. Of course, I won't be able to check in gear. I'll have to start it up again from cold and have it in gear the whole time. But this will definitely tell me whether I'm still in the ballpark. This was already set already, so I'm not expecting to be any big variance in idle trims. Those should all be pretty close. So let me take it out for a touch-up run, see if the trims look good, and then we'll get into some idle tuning and maybe some timing. All right, see you in a minute. Oh man, the audio stunk on this recording, so I'm gonna fix that, and we'll get some live videos coming up with good audio from the car, so you can hear the motor and hear how it runs and hear me babbling away as it's going. I'm gonna do a quick run up to the gas station here, and we'll make a stop. We'll check the log, and then we'll take another log on the way home, and then we'll talk about some more about filtering and making minor adjustments. So stay tuned. All right, so as you can see, that was a pretty good run. Trims are about where they should be. A little bit rich down the bottom, a couple little thin spots that I can go back and touch up, but these are all pretty close. Once I go back and really analyze the log, I can look and see if these were under decel or what the story was when I was triggering these riches down here and the leans up here. Spark retard, I had nothing going on, so I'm confident I can run up a little higher on RPM, a little more load. And we're going to take this out. And keep in mind, too, that above 75, I got the potential to be going into to power enrichment. So it's going to come out. It's going to go into open loop. And as you can see, you know, there really is there's no trims happening there. I mean, it looks like it's pretty much spot on. But again, once I get back home and I get a little higher RPM run in here, I can look and really, you know, pour over the data and see what's coming in, see if I have anything I need to adjust. But this is pretty tight right now. I'm pretty happy with that, especially for first time out with the trims back on. So let's get this thing down the road and head on back home and see what it looked like. All right, so filter strings. I wasn't able to put the filter string in the description of the videos because the formatting with the brackets, YouTube wouldn't allow it in the description. But I'd recommend pausing this and reading through what's on the screen, and at the very least copying down the filter string at the very top, which is got to be copied letter per letter, brackets, parentheses, etc. And what filters do is they filter out data that you don't want. Like if you're tracking wide open throttle in power enrichment, you can filter out anything below a certain TPS range or map functions so that you don't collect data or you don't show the data. The data is collected either way. It really just determines what the charts show on VCM Scanner. So I'd read through this, you know, pause it and read through what's on the screen. And I mean, real quickly, you know, what this particular filter string that I use and modify as I need to. Really, the most important part is that first section when it starts with ABS and it goes all the way down to the first and that filters out transient. So anytime the map or MAF are jumping real quickly, your quick throttle changes, quick load changes, it'll filter that data out because it's not going to be reliable. Second section, the B section, only captures TPS over 1%. So if you want to filter out idle stuff, you want to look at just acceleration, you can change that as you need to, make it 10%, 20%, so you're only catching, you know, throttle load settings, throttle or under load data on the VE chart, so you're not getting decel stuff. You can modify that as you want to, or delete those sections out. I mean, that's up to you. You can add new ones in if you want to change it. You know, the third section C has engine coolant data over 190, because sometimes I'll start a vehicle up cold and run a log or get out on the road before it's, you know, over 190 degrees, where I feel the data is more reliable at operating temperature. And I'll use that just to filter out anything below 190. That way I don't get, you know, cold operation data mixed in. You can change those. You know, feel free to do what you want with them. All three of those components are customizable. You can delete them or change them. You can modify the variables. And if you want to add in different filters, you probably want to familiarize yourself with Boolean logic operators like and, or, not, just so you can get the most out of it and understand how they work with each other. And that's about it. But again, yeah, I recommend, you know, I'd pause this video and take a look at it and write down that filter string if you want to try it out. And then feel free to customize it. None of it's permanent. You can always go back in and change them. And often I'll change them on the fly depending on what I'm doing. Like if we go into Scanner, you know, since right now I have trims activated, I can't rely on EQ data. Anything below, anytime it's in closed loop or open loop with short-term fuel trim. So really the only thing I can use these two EQ error charts for are going to be during wide open throttle during power enrichment when it goes open loop and the trims are off. So, I mean, and you'll see it has slimmed the data down, so there's nothing left up there. It's really the only time you're going to show any data is when it was during, is when the trims were shut off. And I did this by setting up, if you go into, let's see, VEEQ there, error. I got rid of the filter string for transients and really just changed it to throttle position. Because everything here was under, the only data I got, really, this run was up to 3,200 RPM, or 36. And so I just filtered it by throttle position over 45%, which is where, if I go to back here, get out of here, you. If I go back to my throttle for power enrichment, 3,600 RPM, with anything above 45% throttle position would trigger it. And anything above, 4,044 was all 30% throttle position. So you can play with that to see where it's going to set the data. And if I go here and change it to 40% throttle position, if I change it to 4% throttle, all of a sudden I get a bunch of other stuff because I'm not in power enrichment down here. So the trims are working. So I don't want to use this. I want to make sure that I'm in power enrichment. Is the only time I can trust EQ data. Well, there's 30%. These are going to be decel. That's going to be backing off the throttle. I'll almost guarantee it. And I'll do this a lot too. If you pop open graph display, you can go in and edit this filter or these filter strings live, and it'll reflect directly in the chart. To change charts, you're going to make sure you're on the correct chart. To change charts, you'll have to close this down again. But what you can do is scroll through, and we'll see as far as where I was. So here I was pretty much at wide open throttle. I was at 60% throttle, and scrolling up to the RPM going up. And then I start to back off the throttle. I just happen to jump to the next cell, but then there goes closed throttle. So now it's decelling back down again. And the last time I went up to 2800, where was that? Close to it. So that actually was on throttle. So those are valid numbers too. That's a 30%, well, no, 30% throttle at 2800 RPM isn't going to be enough to get into power enrichment. So this was still with the trims operating. So what I'll be able to do now is fuel trims, because they're going to be operational, that's going to be reflect on the VE table below 4,000 RPM and out of power enrichment. Most of this is pretty tight. I can add a little bit here, add a little bit here, maybe take out a little bit here, but really this is close. This is well within the capability of trims to get this to be fine while you're driving down the road. So, but 5, 7, it's a little high. 6, 4 is a little high. 6 is 5. I'd want to, because I'm just going to be a little anal obsessive over it. I'm going to want to go in and change these and take a little bit out of this cell and a little bit out of that cell, or add a little bit to those two, and then take a little bit out of these guys. And that's really about it. That was a pretty good run. Everything looks solid. My idle trims. Let's get back to, where was that warm-up run? Here's a warm-up run I recorded before I went out driving. Idle trims were like non-existent. It's adding a little bit of air at operating temperature, like a, just a hair, just 1 gram per second. I'm not worried about that. And taking out barely anything below, which is fine. So those are cool. So base running airflow is pretty good where I want it. Because again, you have trims there as well. So it can monitor all that and correct for little variances. Don't be obsessive about trying to get it perfect. You never will. Tomorrow I can take it out and do the exact same drive, and I'll get a very different, I'll get a different result by within, 1, 2, 3%. So don't go crazy. B was the one I think I had the big RPM pull on it. There's math error, and the filters carry over when you change logs, so it's still there. So here was the bigger pull. And so up to 4,800. How high did that guy get? 35. We're still accelerating, still on the throttle, starting to back off the throttle now, so there it drops down. Their map starts to come back up. So that was as high as I was on the throttle. And I got decent cell counts, 56 counts in that cell, so I would trust that data. And as you can see, it's just a hair lean. So really, I just have these two leanish spots, and they're not lean by much. Again, we're looking like 1%, 2%. The trims are going to take care of that. This one, I'm probably going to go in on. I'll add a little fuel to that wide open throttle, 24, 28. I'll probably add 3% to it. Can't see the keyboard. Get the graph out so we see if it looks ugly. Oh, look what it added. Look where it added. Flattening out that dip. That's power enrichment. That's right over the top of the VE table. And it feels like a lot. I'm going to grab these and smooth them. I'm going to grab a little more and smooth it. And how much of a change did we make? We can go to, shit, I hope I wasn't looking at the keyboard the whole time with the camera, damn it. Oh. Let's see how much of a change we added. 2.3 out of what? 2.3, 2.9. Out of 100, so it added about 3%, which is what I wanted. So yeah, we added a little in this region. It actually dropped a little at 1600. That's where that big ridge is. We'll go back to here. So again, keep in mind, you're running trims. So if you're going to look at low RPM and you're out of power enrichment, what you don't want to do is start looking at EQ error, because EQ error is only going to be EQ error after the trims have made whatever corrections they want. So you want to start looking at the trims for anything below that. And as far as the trims go, you can see we're a little lean, 2-3%, 5 in that one, 5 in that one. Got decent cell counts. Oh yeah. Let's take a look and see what the cell counts look like. See what it looks like with the those missing counts, because it's filtering out anything below, I think, 10, 20. Let's see what it looks like with every cell populated that it captured. Yeah, some of those are wacky. Like that's not going to be accurate. That might be because we're a little fat down a low RPM here. Let's try 5 and see what that does. It gets rid of our crazy 9. So that at least 5 hits down there at that 11. Yeah, and I would tend to believe that. Because if I'm running this lean right here, I would tend to believe that that 8's probably real. So what I'm going to do, we're at 2400, 2%. I'm going to go ahead and copy those in and half percentage them. Because anything below 4 grand is going to be on VE only. Above 4 grand, it starts to mix in filtered maps. So we don't really have anything up there anyway. I'm going to copy these in. a special half percentage. Oh yeah, it just created a big hole right there. The rest of it doesn't look bad. The rest of it looks pretty legit. But that one right there, 2,475. Yeah, that's the one. That's the one. It looked like a bit of an oddball. So I'm going to reverse that back out. The rest of these lower end ones looked okay. They looked legit. It looked like it was just running way too fat up here. So that's 24 and 75 was that oddball. 94.1. I just brought that hill back up. And then I'm going to smooth this whole section out. I don't want to kill my my torque converter stall hump there. So let's go. Oh, that was actually the bottom margin of it. So let's go 1600 and up. I'll smooth out some of that irregularity there. These guys. Again, I don't want to kill that 1600 bump. I'll tidy some of that up. All right. And that's about it. I'll take it out for another run to confirm. I don't think it's going to be, I think I'm pretty much splitting hairs at this point. Most of this wasn't off by much. And so we should see this richening up. Let's say 45 through 70, from 800 to 28. Yep, so this is richening up. 45 through 70, 828. Yeah. And that's it. We'll go get this, we'll get this tuned out and we'll take another nice long drive tomorrow or the next day. Well, that's the weekend now, we'll see. But we'll get it out for a nice long drive and confirm that these numbers look good. And, you know, if it looks like I screwed something up, I can always revert back to this tune, the tune of 4, and see where, and leave it as is. As far as idle goes, it looks like we're in pretty good shape. I'm going to go back over idle timing, only because I had no spark retard in any of this run. All the way up, looked nice and clean, so I may throw 2 degrees on the table. You know, anything in load, I'll stay away from around idle area, because I don't want to screw with that too much. I'll revert back to the idle table when you're at idle anyway. And if you add too much timing down here where you're decelling, it'll tend to hang idle and you'll get cruise control effect. So it's down here. Sorry, I had the camera tipping down. And that's about it. So I'm just going to do that little tweak to trim EQ. As far as reflecting on the MAF, using the trims, again, we saw this little spot of lean up here. If you look at where that was in the map, if we sweep up through there, we're in acceleration right now. This is just tip in right here. And if you go back to the straight trim table, I'll show you where you were on the VE table. You're up in here. So this is just coming off throttle. But again, we're not using, MAF isn't having any effect on fueling down there. I mean, it might tell me that, hey, you know, the MAF table looks underfueled down low, but it's not looking at the MAF down low. So really, that's all VE. So if I'm not seeing reliable data on the trim versus VE table, then I'm not going to bother. I'm not going to bother changing it. That's really all transitional stuff. As it's just you're just breaking off throttle, and to see it come. Now, what was I? 3 or 4%? Yeah, 2, 3 or 4% lean as it came up. So as soon as you hit tip in, it drops a hair lean because it takes a 100th of a second for the ECM to come back and give you a little more fuel, and then it richens back up. So, you know, I'm not sweating that. On the actual VE table, we're still looking at 3%, 4%, around this range. So we're cool. That was 875. See if that came up anyway. 875. We were rich enough right there. So as we tip in throttle coming out of what we usually idle about 50, 55 on map. As we tip in, it's normally going to lean out. So this little bit of richening right here is going to help avoid that. And that's that. We'll plug this in, take it for another drive to confirm it, and then we'll take a look at base idle settings. Like I said, my base running airflow looks good. I don't recall if I covered these. Base running airflow looks real close to where I was at. If you scroll up through, you'll notice that dynamic and idle desired are not far off. They're within, a gram. 7888. There's going to be some fluctuations. That's okay. Here, idle desired is a hair over. So, as it warms up and goes through, but we're within about a gram. You look at the idle adapts. We're in park, of course, just sitting there idling. So our net idle trim is around 0.7, adding about 0.7. So there's your 0.88. And there, if you look at those numbers compared to the base running airflow table, they're real close to what I got. And I've found that if you add too much base running airflow, where am I? Idle airflow. Thank you. Good Lord. We're not far off of where I'm at. Sitting there warming up. 8, 6, 6, 7s, 8s. That's a pretty good chart. Could I get that closer to perfect? Maybe, but the last thing I want to do is start bumping up BRAF and have it start getting into cruise control because it's starting to add too much air coming back to throttle, back to closed throttle. I don't have any kind of idle dip issues coming back to throttle, as you could probably hear during the road test. So it runs great, and honestly, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. So unless I start seeing trims that are 5% plus or minus, or short-term and long-term idle adapts for airflow are going to be like 2 or 3 grams per second off, I'm not going to bother. That the trims will take care of that. You're in a pretty happy place, and that's it. So really, I just got to I'll get one more run to confirm that the VE setting is still good, and I didn't just screw anything up. And then we'll get working on some of the idle settings, idle timing, and that's really about it. An idle's fine. So, an idle's fine RPM wise. So I don't think I need to adjust idle RPM, and I'll just tweak the timing a little bit in the base timing tables and go. But I'll touch back with you after I do the next confirmation run to make sure I didn't just kill anything. All right. Thanks. Like and subscribe. Bye bye.